Hello and welcome to the 6 months to 6 figures series of the WYF Freelancing podcast. In this series, you'll follow a specific freelancer, in this case, Maia. I'm trying to point at her for the video people, as I coach them from early stages to earning a 6-figure annual income. Because if you break it down, $100,000 a year is essentially $8,333 a month. So my challenge is to see how quickly I can get somebody from kind of early stages to $8,333 a month. And my challenge is like, do it within 6 months. Hence, 6 months to 6 figures, very catchy. So in this series, I'll connect with Maia every week or two, and it'll follow the same format as the office hours coaching within the DYF Accelerator. And that's how these actually all started. So if you're watching these or listening and you find yourself thinking, I wish I could get coaching like this, know that you totally can. You can learn more at dyf.link/DYFA. So before we jump in, today's episode is going to be a little bit different than normal because this week, Maia came to a mastermind and an office hours in a short window. So the normal episodes you've been seeing so far are office hours within the DYF Accelerator, which are basically just one-on-one coaching sessions with me. But we also have masterminds where it's me, you, and others who are going through the same sort of challenges as you, and we all get together and like help each other. And so Maia came to a mastermind 2 days before the office hours, and thus she hadn't had time to like implement yet. So I figured it made sense to just join these as one like mega episode for the week. So enjoy. I'll do some weird insertion of future Zach into the middle. Like I'm future Zach now, but to you, I'm present day Zach, but I assure you I'm future Zach. So I'll do the mastermind and then future Zach will come in and then awkwardly segue into the office hours. So enjoy. So you have your two audiences. I'm guessing that the additional clients and leads you've generated have still kind of been in that like less profitable audience, maybe?
Two of them. And David, what I heard from you was super, super helpful because I feel like you're a step up. So it was really cool to hear you talk about your business like that. But yeah, like this week, it was two clients that are like on my lower offer, which is mentoring, creative mentoring. And then one that is super interested in my core branding that came from like my Trojan client, the one that I want to build this interview with. So I know it's going to be a good lead, and I'm still like in clarity with this one, but this other two, I got the lead. So yeah, I guess the ones I'm landing is more on the lower ticket, and the ones that I still have to work more, like have more clarity calls and send more like proposals and stuff. It's like the higher ticket ones.
Okay, let me make a couple notes. Give me 1 second. So 6. Okay. So let's break them down. So the new clients, you said a couple were the creative mentoring.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 2 creative mentoring, and then explain the higher ticket ones. You're saying that like they're not closed yet, but they're like in the sales process. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. So she contacted me on Monday. She said this client talked about you. Well, she said, I've been wanting to reach you. I've been looking at what you're publishing on your Instagram, and I really wanted to reach out to you. So I contacted this past clients because they know each other. And then we are having a clarity call on Thursday. So
Okay.
I know there's going to be back and forth.
Okay, gotcha. So none of your lead gen though has booked, like none of your manual Instagram lead gen has booked calls with potential clients in this desired service category. Is that right?
I didn't understand. Sorry.
Okay, let me find your notes because that'll help me make sure I'm using the right words that you relate to. Okay. So you have core branding, which is your like more expensive project.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the creative coaching that you just mentioned. And you said that people who are in their, like you called it slashy, I call it scrappy phase.
Yeah.
Those are the ones who you primarily can reach on Instagram with your like, you go out, you do your marketing, those are the ones you reach. But you're wanting to do like 5 to 6K branding projects and
Mhm.
then doing like affordable group coaching for the people who are more at the beginning. And it sounded like the challenge you were having is that the people on Instagram, it said, the note that I have down is that you said about 80% of them are the just getting started projects, like 20%
Yeah,
are bigger ones.
absolutely. I think I understand your question now. The marketing is working for the lower ticket, but my ideal is that the marketing works for the higher ticket, so it excuses 5 hours of marketing and not just getting like a mentoring session or something like that in exchange of 5 hours of marketing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. And then I also had it down that you would rather, like, given the option, you would be
Mhm.
more inclined to do coaching versus the bigger branding projects if they were all the same amount of money.
Absolutely.
And the people for the coaching would be the Instagram people.
Mhm.
So yeah, I guess like you have limited hours and you're going to spend them moving in one direction or the other. So my question for you is like, if you were to pick a primary focus, would you be more inclined right now to double down on marketing efforts that would be oriented towards people who'd hire you for the $5,000 or $6,000 branding projects who you're not currently in front of at all? Or doing the coaching projects, which it sounds like would be for the people you are currently in front of, but it would be a whole new context because you'd be trying to do some group coaching or something.
Mm, yeah, spending more time marketing for the bigger projects.
Okay. So your ideal takeaway was think about your ideal takeaway is understanding where those people are hanging out and converting them all
Yeah,
to clients.
yeah,
Okay.
because they're definitely not like on Instagram. It's just like scrappy, slashy people, but they're the big clients are definitely not through there. It's always through the referrals or word of mouth. Hasn't happened that like a client contacts me on Instagram and it's like, hey, I want you to do my whole brand.
So tell me about, well, how many clients have you worked with for the core branding? How many of those have you done?
Like in general or this
Mm-hmm.
year?
Or this year? I mean, as long as the number's more
Okay.
than like, I don't know, 3,
Oh
then I
yeah.
guess you said this year.
This year I've done like 12.
Okay, cool. And so you weren't on the accelerator. So I can't remember. Were you on the case studies course? I don't think you were.
Mm-mm.
So basically, I did that case studies course that Davide mentioned, and I did a case study interview with one of my past clients, and I got marketing ideas from it. This past client of mine who I interviewed was one of my, like, almost like miniature celebrity within his niche clients. He is very successful. My website that I built for him has been very integral to his success. He sends me hella case studies, or sorry, hella referrals.
Mhm.
People, new advisors want to like implement, gosh, my brain today. New advisors want to emulate him.
Wow.
And he
Okay.
really loves the site I did. So like I knocked it out of the park. He knocked it out of his own park. Like he's just a really good, juicy case study kind of client. For your
Mm.
core branding projects, who are the ones who've like either gone on to be the most successful or gotten the most out of the project you did for them, or just were the most successful to start, that kind of thing? Who are your juicy, kick-ass core branding clients?
I think there's two that I can think of that they're really successful, not only because of the outcome of it, but because they grabbed the branding and they really have been consistently using it. And there are two like educators, coach, like skincare, holistic skincare, and the other one is a sex educator. And they really grabbed what I did to them. They were on a retainer for a while. The sex educator is my longest retainer, 8 months. And it's been really amazing to see her like consistently grow content. And this is the person that has brought me the most referrals.
So the source and shit, I need to make a note to add this actually to the questions. 1 second, so I don't forget, because I just got a
Mhm.
good idea for my own self.
No worries.
Uh,
Cool. You're welcome, Zach.
Thank you. Visual cue to the case study questions. to ask how they market, etc. So basically, where I got this really good marketing idea with Jake is like, I had just remembered that Jake, that past client of mine who people want to emulate, blah, blah, blah. I had remembered that he had won some like award for the site that I did for him. And so I was just like probing about that because I wanted to just like get more details about that because then I can leverage that in the case study. And he was talking about how he would go on these podcasts. And whenever he'd go on a podcast and they were asking him why he thought he became so successful, it would tie back to the site. And then my takeaway from there was like, Zach, if you wanted to market these things, you should get intros from him to those podcast hosts and you should go on their podcast. So the question maybe that is the intentional question I need to add to the case study interview is something to kind of tease this stuff out. Like, how, dear client, did you / do you market yourself? And if you have things come up like guest blog posts or podcasts that are within the space, or like what, dear client, are the ways in which you have like been interviewed or had notoriety that tied into the brand? And so let's say they were like, well, actually I went on to the Entrepreneur on Fire podcast to talk about how personal branding affected my business. That is super duper relevant for you, Maia. Because it's like, if they were like, I went on to the How to Take Care of Your Skin podcast, which is listened to by people who want to improve their skin, that's not relevant to you, Maia. But if they went on to the How to Grow a Skincare Business podcast that is listened to by skincare business owners, that is extremely relevant to you, Maia. So, so maybe that would be like, you said that you have one like interview lined up with one of them, right? Or something. You were going to like interview one of them. You said Trojan Horse client, something.
Mm-hmm.
Is that one of these
With
two
her.
or someone else?
No, it's her. It's her. I really, because she just launched her newsletter. So I wanted to, I really want to be more like the person that pushes clients to get out of Instagram and into newsletters type thing. So I want to interview her, like how, like, when did it click that you need to pursue email marketing instead of like superficial marketing? And I also want to make it about, hello, future clients, you need to get out of Instagram and into a newsletter.
Okay, cool.
Type thing.
And you said this is a skincare one.
No, this is the sex education one.
Okay. So then this is good timing because I just promised Davide earlier today I'd process my interview with Jake ASAP. And now I got to promise it to you too, because I think you'd find it really, really useful. When are you doing this interview with her?
I was planning next week.
Okay, great. So what I'll do is I will prioritize processing the interview because what I'm thinking, you have two routes you can go. You could do it as a podcast episode that's like normal Trojan Horse style, but given that she's a past client, given you kicked ass for her, what I think would be good to do is treat it as a case study interview. And I recorded everything with Jake. Basically, the other day, like last week, he booked me for some website updates. And I was like, hey, Jake, once we do the website updates, what if I just interview you for a case study? And he's always really nice and wants to help me because my website has made him so many monies. And so basically, I incentivized him with like a little bit of free website updates. You could do like a little bit of free email marketing consultation with your client. Like say I can, like, you know how with me, like I will offer to do a coaching call with somebody if I'm going to bring them in for an expert interview because I want to deliver value since they're giving value to the community. You could think of some way you can provide value as a thanks for her time. I assume the sex educator client is a woman, but his or her time. Okay, her time. And then say, and I'd love to interview you, and I would love to use it as a case study if you're cool with it. And then I have a bunch of questions in this course and stuff. So I'll send those to you. I'll get it updated. But where I'm angling at with this, to tie it all back, you want to know where your clients hang out. And the fact, like the thing that you've got going for you is that you already have past clients and you already have past clients who are successful. So, actually, I'm going to make another note. This isn't so much a case study one as an audience research question, but like maybe a good question for this interview. It won't probably be in the case study notes. Maybe I should add it. I'll say maybe add to case study cues. Is like, ask her maybe how did she learn to be a good marketer? Like, where did she learn to do this stuff? How is it that she has grown her business? Where does she go to level up? And that, like, whatever she says to that is going to be a really good answer for you about where your audience hangs out. You could even ask her, like, are you in any communities of other business owners? Like, where do you get your business education? Maybe that's good. So succinct. Where do you get your biz education? Because basically this interview you're going to do for her, I think, has a couple of core purposes. So these case study interviews that I have in the course, like, the core purpose of those interviews is like basically just delineate the pain they had and the way that your project kicked ass for them. That's kind of the goal. But in your case, you have a second goal, which I might add it to the questions because I think all of us really have this goal. The second goal is just understand your audience better and where they hang out. That's kind of your secondary goal, or maybe even primary goal here. So when you're thinking of the questions to ask her on this interview, that might be the one. And there might be multiple ones around that. Like, one might be, where did you learn how to do all this cool marketing? Or that's actually a good one. I'll write that down. Where did you learn how to market? And then you could ask another one, which is like, why do you think you've been so successful in such a short amount of time where some of my others aren't? Or like, how did you find your first customers? Or what ongoing lead generation are you doing now? Where do you level up your business skills? I think that between these questions, you're going to get some really good, juicy leads.
And I'm thinking of other clients I could interview because their audience is huge. Like the owner of a yoga studio that I just did a rebrand. She is crazy successful. We did a rebrand, so she already had a really successful brand, but it's relevant still to interview her.
And the biggest ones, again, just to reiterate, that you want to look for. So whenever you're doing something like booking a podcast interview that you're going on as a guest, if you're not a BFD yet, big freaking deal yet, like, it's always hardest to book the initial interviews. Yeah. And it's like, my job at DYF is now easy because I can just name drop Brennan. Everyone knows Brennan. So it's like really easy for me to book these things now. But when I was prior to partnering with DYF and I was seeking out my initial interviews, it's always the hardest because you're a nobody. But where it's not hard is when you get a personal intro. And so again, to tie all this back, like, if I spoke with Jake, that financial advisor client, he said, I went on the Kitsch's podcast, which is a very popular financial advisor oriented podcast, and I was telling him about the website stuff. I would say, hey, Jake, can you introduce me and Michael, the host of the podcast? And I could go on there and talk about the website things. I'd really appreciate that if you're willing to do it. And I would talk about like why it is, or what I do when I build a website for advisors to help them have a kick-ass website. And Jake would, of course, be like, yeah, that'd be great, because I love you and you did a good job teaching me those things. And then you have this foot in the door, and assuming that you pitch that podcast host something unique to them and valuable, of course they're going to want it. So the core goals with you learning about the getting in front of people thing is like, on the one hand, you want to learn where did they learn how to level up, because that gives you good information. But on the other hand, you also want to try to find a way that you can like leverage this connection you have to the successful person to become an intro to get somewhere else. So I should write this down too, because it is pretty good. Maybe I'll just make a note to reference this later. So in this case, like, actually there's a tool. Can't remember the name right now, but there are tools that you can use to look up podcasts that someone has been on. So the way that I booked my first podcast interview, basically the history with me as it pertains to DYF, is that I used to hire Laura as a coach because I really like her client portal business and I've always wanted to run a lean SaaS. So I would just talk to her for coaching sometimes. And then she liked me because I'm a likable guy. And so she offered to do like an intro for me. And that's how I got my first interview, was from an intro Laura made. And when I was like requesting intros from her, I looked her up on this tool that shows like what podcasts people have been on. And so I saw Laura had been on blank, 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 blank podcast. And I was like, hey, Laura, could you give me an intro to this podcast? So maybe before you do this interview with your client, you can check what podcasts they've been on or what blogs they've been featured on. Like just maybe Google their name and crawl through the results and do that until you find like a few sources that are business to business podcasts. So or blogs or whatever, places where she's been featured that your ideal client hangs out on, not her ideal client. And your ideal client is people like her. So that, again, if it's a profile on like how XYZ person grew a $1 million a year sex education business, that interview is going to be listened to not by her customers because they don't care about that. It's going to be listened to by her peers. So I think by now you get what I'm getting at. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, there you go. I gave you what you wanted. You now have an idea of figuring out where people are hanging out. There are other strategies that you can do. Like I took this course called 30 by 500 that has a whole process for painstorming and like looking around on Reddit and other online communities to see what people are talking about, searching for communities, doing all of these things. But in my opinion, getting things from the horse's mouth is always best. And the fact that you have past clients who are successful is like, it's like gold. That's the gold standard, what we would all want. So I think tapping into that more than sneaky strategies is going to be the best thing for you to do for now.
Yeah, that sounds good. Also, like I literally like I'm redesigning my website and I don't have like I haven't touched the case studies. I need like 5 case studies of this like best case studies that I have, but I am outsourcing just for this designer to build the case studies. I don't know why it's so hard to build them. So I think the interview sounds great. It sounds really good.
Okay. I won't kick myself in the ass to do this today or tomorrow. You can watch the things, follow through it. It should be step by step-ish.
Okay. Well, that
The
sounds
question,
great.
go ahead.
Yes. Okay, interview done. Where does it live? You know, do I put it on my website? Is it a testimonial type thing? Like, I know I should watch through the whole blueprint, but like, where does it live? A 20-minute interview with a client.
So the flow is going to be this. So it will live on your website, and this won't be in the blueprint. The blueprint talks about the Trojan horse, but that's not what we're doing here. This is like what I call a case study interview. But I think you bought the bundle, right? You're in both things. Yeah. So this course will be called Killer Case Studies. That's my current working title until I can think of something better. But anyway, it'll be in your university dashboard. Technically, it's there now. I think I've already uploaded the recording, but I'm going to polish it and chop it into a proper course versus just a 3-hour long event. So basically, the flow is going to be this. I'm formalizing the structure. I was working on it today. The flow is going to be step 1, you plan your interview questions. Step 2, you do the interview. And then step 3 is that you leverage this interview to write a case study. And the interview can be a piece of content itself. So all of the interview questions are like targeted to give you little bullet point fill in the blank things that will result in a case study. And I'm also going to play with, so that interview I did last week with Bo Peter about AI, and he was talking about how he can leverage AI to basically like take a sales page, have it rewrite that sales page with his bullet points, and that's worked pretty well. I'm going to play with a ChatGPT prompt where I can basically give you my case study that I wrote for Jake, and then you can like type in your bullet points and have ChatGPT rewrite it for your client. That's my goal. I suck at AI, so I don't know if I'll succeed at this, but yeah. So yeah, so anyway, that case studies course will give you everything you need for this. And what I'm planning to do with this Jake one, since he gave me permission, like if I were running my consultancy, what I'm going to be doing, I'm building the page in Thrive Architect so you can recreate it in whatever page builder you use. But what I'm going to do for this page is I'm going to put a YouTube video on the page of this interview with Jake and an audio so people can do it as a podcast. And then if I were running my own podcast on my site, I would have it as a podcast episode and I would have it on my YouTube. So like it can be one piece of content used in a lot of different ways is the idea. So understanding where they're hanging out, how to niche down, talk to them. Yeah, I think that would be a really good start. And so basically your flow here would be take my little case studies course, and I'll prioritize that tomorrow. do your
I will.
interview, and then leverage this knowledge as you're going through the blueprint. The one consideration for you is that like this stuff that you're doing is kind of it's not going to have the immediate ROI that spending 5 hours on Instagram does, but it's going to have more of that like automated ROI where you spend your chunk once, but not really once. You do it ongoing, but you spend your big chunk and then it continues to pay you off. Versus Instagram, it seems like it's more of the hamster wheel. So just make sure you go into this knowing that what you're doing now is like your long-term marketing strategy that's going to really kick ass long-term, but that short-term, you're probably not going to get the really fast payoff that you do from Instagram. But this is like the real business building marketing.
Yeah, which is why I like this course, because I've done a lot of coaching, which is like pretty much like Instagram marketing, like it's not that, but at the end, it's a course that it's like pretty hamster wheelie, what you said. So I feel like everything that is here on WF Freelancing is like real advice from like legit people before Instagram, maybe Twitter, but like real things. So I like that, building like foundations.
But I think your Instagram thing is really cool too, frankly. Like the fact that you can spend that time and predictably get clients is like a superpower, because a lot of us don't have that. So don't discredit what you already have. And in fact, I'll want to like probably interview you sometime about your Instagram strat, because I think that would help other people. But it's a phase. It's not the thing you want to do forever. And
Totally.
you're experiencing the difficulty maybe reaching the right kind of client with it. So converting them all to clients, you were saying mostly a joke, but
it's real.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that through the case study questions, you'll get more information about like why she bought from you and how she leveraged the stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's getting late. I probably won't spend much time tonight, but I've been working on it today, and I just blocked off my whole schedule for tomorrow. So I'll do deep work on this case study thing tomorrow, and I should get this uploaded for both of you guys soon. Maria will have to edit it, but I'll see if she can carve out the time to edit tomorrow. So I'll plan to do that. Cool. Well then, Maia, I'll let you go. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Do you have any questions before you go, or is it pretty clear?
I think it's pretty clear. Like, I think it's up to me to do this interview and then see how I can convert it into like snackable content, because that's what Instagram people want, maybe grabbing the questions, putting them into text, like making it a resource for other people that are starting a business. So it can also, while it builds in the long term, it can also target the people that want creative mentoring. That's where my mind is at, like repurpose.
Yeah.
But no, I'm excited for your course.
And I'll make a note to think about the repurposing, because I do think I think each of these questions could be repurposed into several small bites. Like if one of the questions is like what caused you to hire someone like me in the first place, and she's talking about all her like challenges before, like each of those you could repurpose into a snack. But I'll just make a note. Cool. All right, well, see you then. I'll let you know once I've uploaded the videos.
Amazing. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
So a quick note for you with that done is that Maia came to an office hours a couple days after this mastermind. So what I'm going to do now is basically flow from what Maia was just now asking in the mastermind to what Maia then asked 2 days later in the office hours. And I figured we'd combine these as the like this week slot. So let's now do some magical segue. Polishing offer ecosystem, follow up on client case studies, interview, and thinking time. Okay. So let's explain that a bit more if we could. What is what's the ideal takeaway today?
I think ideal takeaway is that I have been working on my marketing, on spending the hours that you spend on marketing, and it has led yesterday like posting like client wins on Instagram, just very simple ones who my clients launched. And then I just added like for the first time now booking July and beyond. And 4 people replied to that asking for my service deck, which is huge. It's a lot. I've never tried it before. And it's like, okay, that's something really cool to try on. But I think I want to, like, from there, I want to learn more on what we were talking the other day, that it's like, okay, I'm doing it on Instagram, but can I grab what I'm doing there and do it on like maybe LinkedIn, or like where are these clients that are willing to pay me what I want? Instagram, they're paying attention to me, but is there a platform where I'm no one that I can start scaling a little bit?
Yeah, that makes sense. So Kim, I'll follow up with her. I think she's maybe still on holiday, but she has had good success on LinkedIn. Like she does lead gen on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And Bo was talking about that a little bit too in our AI one, and he's going to perhaps create a course on like how he uses AI for LinkedIn marketing. But
Mm.
but since that course doesn't exist, and since Kim I think is still on holiday, what I can tell you is that for LinkedIn and stuff, we can tap into Kim's knowledge because I know she's keen to do more interviews and stuff.
Mhm. And Kim is the one, sorry to interrupt you. Kim is the one that has this like productized, like done for you freelance. Okay, cool. Yeah. Still have to watch that
Dutch
video.
one. Okay.
Kim. Okay. But yeah.
Trying to think if she talks about it at all. You know, I think in the expert interview, she does talk very, very briefly about her LinkedIn strategy. So I think
Okay.
that one would be worth, I think you'd like both, but I think that one would be worth a watch and give you some ideas. And it may be that you could like reuse what you're putting on Insta over there, but I kind of doubt it. I get the sense that the way she uses LinkedIn is almost like as a snack of a blog post, or perhaps just a syndication of a blog post. Like she might literally do the same thing on her site as on LinkedIn. I'm not certain. I'll have to chat with her about that. Let me, I'll just put this on my little to-do list real quick to see if I can book her for that.
But you know what? Repivot, like mental pivot. I just thought of a really cool idea, and maybe I want to use this time to bounce it back with you, because I know you also have a lot of like email marketing, Brennan, like create and sell, like background. I have been thinking of, like, a lot of people ask me for projects, pricing, all this stuff, and I'm thinking that I can create a landing page and whole newsletter that is about my studio background. Let's see how to say it. Okay, so someone, a client, you Zach, want to work with me, and you say, hey, I really am interested in your pricing and everything, and I say, okay, amazing, I send you the prices, but then I say I am booked until 2 months in advance, but you can totally join this group of, like, it's in my head, it's a wait list. It's like, join this group and I'll send you studio updates, and I will send you, like, you will receive the best prices on new offers, or like, discounts, or you will be the first to know when I'm launching something. And I think it makes sense, but maybe it's too much work for nothing. But like, a lot of people know me because of my newsletters. So I feel like a newsletter is a cool way to add like studio updates. This client launched, look at this way that this other client did that. And that links back to the videos and interviews that I'm doing, which can be a newsletter, of course, to book my future clients and keep the wait list and see the analytics of who clicked on what, which really helps me know which clients are really hot. And also use it as a way to, yeah, like market my studio in a different way.
Just writing this down.
Mm-hmm. Like, I say it out loud, and I know it's a lot to pursue, but if it's the right direction, then I would love to pursue it, because I love newsletters. It's my vocab. I love it. I love making it pretty. Like, really like it. Could be something cool to try out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea, but I have some notes and some thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So number one, I think studio updates. I think you could wordsmith that a little bit, because it's not immediately clear to me. It almost sounds like you like installed a new piece of furniture in your home studio and you're gonna like send me a picture of it, versus like success stories, or something like that. ChatGPT is good for coming up with ideas around this kind of stuff. So that was one missed thought. But regarding the core concept that you're asking for feedback on, I think it's a great idea as long as you come at it from the standpoint of like MVP, what can I reuse? Because I can tell you that, so with DYF, my sort of like minimum viable obligation for keeping the lights on, quote, quote, with our email newsletters, like get one newsletter in there per week. And I'm working on like some really streamlined kind of content stacking, reusing processes right now that are, I think once they're shaped up, will make it really easy for me to put out like 3 pieces of top of funnel content per week, because I can just repurpose little snippets from like the accelerator sessions. But even with this, even with that in place, even with Mari editing the videos, when I have this full workload, like, it is still a good amount of time. So I think that this idea is really great if you're mostly reusing stuff that you're doing anyway. And it sounds like it would be that. If it's going to require you to actually be creating new content for it, the payoff, because the payoff, here's my thought, is that if you have a let me step back. The question is, what is the goal? Because if your goal right now is to queue up your brand redo projects and get a waitlist going there, then we can look at it through that lens. If the goal is to build up your like list of people who might join a paid course, we can look at it through that lens. But if the main goal is just queuing up the brand redo projects that we've been talking about, for that, given that you're going to be doing content marketing, if you sent a newsletter that was just kind of a recap, like, hey, I launched the client this week, cool. I think that's a really great idea. Or, hey, copy and paste what I just put on Instagram. Cool, great idea. But if you're like needing to write new stuff, I think that would be maybe not a payoff. And the reason I kind of pulled it back to here, even though this sounds like I'm reiterating a lot of stuff, is that when I was consulting, I had a waitlist, and I didn't do any newsletter. I didn't do anything. I was really, really not a good marketer for my own consulting business. But what I have noticed is that people simply knowing that you have a wait list is like just really good marketing in general. So if someone reaches out and you say, hey, I'm booked up until July, I can shoot you an update when I'm available, or I can put you on the newsletter where I announce my availability. And that newsletter could like only exist to announce your availability, and you don't send out any content. That can still be compelling. Something that I used strategically is, like, I would say when I would do, let's say, a discovery call, like a sales call, I would say, I've got a queue and I've got some other people who are reaching out to me for like to potentially work with me. I don't like to schedule too far out. So I usually maintain like a 1 or 2 month queue, which this is a side note that I'll tell you about in a second. So if you want to secure your slot on my calendar, make sure you pay your deposit ASAP, and I'm going to block you out for these 2 weeks or whatever. And that was the other thing I wanted to mention, is that since you're getting to the point that you're working with a wait list, and that's the goal with the brand redo projects, I got into a stressful situation a few years ago where I had, I guess maybe it was only a year or 2 ago. It was around when I was wanting to start transitioning from consulting into product, and I wanted to start blogging and things like that. I had like a 3-month wait list, and some of the project, not a 3-month wait list really, but like a 3-month clients paid their deposits and got slotted in kind of thing. And a couple of the projects ballooned in scope at the same time. And it felt like I was just like fighting against this freaking pile on top of me. And so my rule that I created for myself after that is to like limit the amount that I book myself out into the future to like 2 months. Because I think when you get beyond that, and especially for you, because you want to run a lifestyle business and have all this flexibility and stuff, you might even restrict it. I think maybe it's less about the amount of months and more about the amount of projects. So for me, a typical project might represent 1 month of work. So 2 months would be like 2 or 3 projects. Okay. So yeah, I would say probably aim not to book more than 3 projects, but 2 might be more comfortable. And so when you have 2 months of work in the queue who've already paid their deposits, and you have a wait list of subscribers, you'll have all that comfort knowing that you always will have money. So going back to the newsletter thing, I think it's a really, really good idea based on what we're chatting about, because you mentioned that you like the design of the newsletter, and that to me is like a red flag for time suck. So
yes.
Are you capable of doing this in an MVP way where you just copy and paste, or are you going to obsess in Palladio or whatever about the design?
Well, the thing I use Flowdesk, which is like the Palladio of the Palladios, you know,
Mhm.
without the ConvertKit automation, of course. But that's the hard part, definitely, because I also think, oh, if the newsletter looks beautiful, then a client that wants to book me, but it's still like, I don't know, you know, this is the eye candy that is gonna.
Yeah.
So it would be like those 5 hours of marketing that I think is the sweet spot for me. And it would be like two of them a week. I would be writing the newsletter, grabbing the case studies, like light case studies that I'm doing on Instagram into the newsletter. And like I just think like I have two newsletters. I have a personal one that is about my travels. And then I have another one that has nothing to do with me, that is all about self knowledge, tools and practices, philosophy, psychology, very segmented people, very different audiences. I don't know if I should like see my personal studio and then just make it into the behind the scenes of a blank page, my design studio, and then just segment a little group of people that are going to be like the really, really behind the scenes. Because to think about announcing a third newsletter, like that's just going to confuse people, and I don't want to confuse anyone.
So, okay, so there are a few things at play here. Let me just write them down because I'll forget as I start talking. So one Q is that one. Another Q is different newsletters. So to me, spending 40% of your marketing time writing newsletter content for a tiny list is not going to pay off. If you had a list of, 10,000 people who were all prospective clients, then I'd say, fuck it, don't do any outbound marketing, only write stuff for your list. But that's not the case. But if you could get it where you are time boxing your newsletter creation time, like you challenge yourself to say, I'm going to spend 30 minutes a week on this, and you allow it to balloon maybe into 1 hour, that might work. But the marketing approach I'm planning to recommend to you, like if you're going through the blueprint, my mental plan for you is essentially you're going to do this case study interview. You're going to get all this great knowledge about like podcasts you could guest on or blogs you could write guest posts for, things like that. And I'll probably be pushing you towards that more like proper content marketing stuff. If you go down the LinkedIn direction, that's like kind of more in the treadmill-y style, which might be nice for generating immediate business, but it might not continue to pay off on autopilot. I don't know. I haven't done LinkedIn marketing much. So when I imagine you spending 40% of your time on something that is only nurturing a tiny amount of leads, that seems like it would have a smaller payoff than if you were able to use that time to like secure a podcast interview that might just keep bringing in potential clients for a long time. And furthermore, like build relationships with other marketing channels where you can go do outbound marketing. And this is coming from someone who I have dumped a lot of time into building fancy automations for DYF and stuff. And even with our really large email list, like I'm often not convinced that the payoff is there versus if I had used that same time to create helpful YouTube videos or go as a guest on other podcasts, like doing the more marketing-y stuff versus the more conversion stuff. So all of that being said, I think I love the idea of you sending out sending out something that points to the case study interviews that you're already doing. And the reason I love it is
my blog.
Yeah. And I love it because it's quick and it's easy and it's like making the most of something you're already doing. But if you're creating some newsletter format where you have to like go in every week and be clever, I think that that's a mistake.
Yeah, so, and that was what I was excited about. So I love that you smashed that drink because I needed that. I wasn't gonna smash it myself. It's not gonna pay off. Absolutely not gonna pay off. A newsletter for like the 10 people that are on my wait list for July. Like, no.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
But if you can reuse stuff and then maybe one day if you really want to share that stuff, you can. I mean, for context, like I'm speaking from experience because I wanted to do these weekly like build in public updates for the DYF Accelerator where I was going to share some personal snippet from my life and share blah, blah, blah and share blah, blah, blah. And like the scope ballooned and sure, the concept sounds really cool. But the fact is some people read that. But what most people in the accelerator and university really want is for me to add new courses and update our current courses. So all of this like faff about build in public or whatever, it's like, it's not actually moving the needle on what matters for right now. So you could give, if you need to give yourself a concession, you could say, you could like map out things where if you can write the clever bit in 4 minutes or less, like you set a 4-minute timer, you write, and if you end that 4 minutes and you like what's there, you leave it. If you don't, you delete it. Like you can make some little concession with yourself to keep yourself on track. But yeah, I think the other stuff would be better. So that was that bit. And then the other bit you talked about was the different newsletters. So for clients, I to go back to what started this whole thing, I really liked your idea of, if someone reaches out, they say, hey, can I hire you? You say, I've got a wait list, but if you like, I can add you to my blah, 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 cool branded name for the newsletter, where I announce my availability as soon as it comes up, and I share something really specific and valuable sounding. Like I share the lessons that I learn as I create projects for clients that you can use in your own business while you wait for me.
Yeah, that's really
a useful thing. And then that could be it. That's all you have to do for positioning. But where I'm confused is why you're saying it would be confusing for people to have a third newsletter. Are you saying it would be confusing for the existing subscribers, or who would it be confusing for?
I think it would be confusing where I thought like I did a really cool little dive sharing like client updates on their Instagram, sharing what work with that launched, and then I was like 10 stories. And then at the end, I also said, oh, I hired a virtual assistant, I hired a designer, like really exciting stuff. A lot of people replied. But then the last slide, the last Instagram like story, like the last Twitter thread, it was now booking July and beyond. And it's like, where's the call to action? People just go to the next story, and I want to capture them because they were really pulled. And I'm sure that if I had something there, people would have put their names, and then they would have received a welcome email. Hello, at the beginning of July, you will receive the availability. If you want to secure your spot, please get in contact with me because we're booking out soon, like something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Which, by the way, if it's somewhat small volume, you could even just say like, leave a comment with the word me, and I'll DM you. Like that, you could play with that, and you could have a VA do it. It might have higher conversion rates than requiring them to click off platform. But anyway, that's tangential.
Yeah,
so
I see.
Are you saying these people like follow you personally, and so them going onto your design studio site would be confusing, or what's the confusing part? Because I still feel like it doesn't sound that confusing.
Okay, I guess I always feel like I have too many projects, and it is for me. Like I know for other people it's not. I have a super organized link in bio that is my website is a link in bio pretty much that just leads into all my different like topics and personal projects. But I feel like, for example, someone that's subscribed to my newsletter, 2 newsletters, and then they see that I have another landing page, they'll be like, wait, why is she launching another newsletter? Like, what is this, And I don't want people to get lost. That's my only concern, but it's kind of stupid because no one, like, it's obvious that it's just for the wait list.
Are you using ConvertKit, or what do you use?
No, Flowdesk. And I love Flowdesk. Like I want to get into ConvertKit, but I just love it so much.
Okay. Well, I haven't used Flowdesk, but like the ConvertKit style, or like what I would consider the modern email marketing style with tagging as its source of segmentation, to me, what you're describing isn't confusing. It's like if someone went to the DYF site, they sign up for a free course about blueprint style marketing. They sign up for a free course about double your freelancing rate, like you signed up for. Like these are all different things, but they're discrete purposes. Versus, I think maybe where you're getting stuck is the positioning as a newsletter, because newsletter is like fluffy and generic. Whereas what I'm describing is you're signing up for a specific type of thing. So if someone comes to a page and it's like sign up for newsletter number 3, that's confusing. But if they come up to this page and they say, sign up for...
Join the wait list.
Yeah, sign up to sign up to hear about availability, not even necessarily join the wait list, because that feels like a commitment. Easier, like lower friction would be sign up to learn as soon as I have schedule availability and learn about the cool things that I'm doing for clients that benefit your business, blah, blah, blah. To me, that's not confusing.
Okay.
Maybe just don't call it a newsletter.
Okay. Yes. Totally. I like calling it the wait list, or like I'm gonna come up with a cool name. But this was amazing, really. This was amazing, and it was amazing that you said careful with taking too much time into the design, because that's where my head goes. I'm like, yes, a new product.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel then maybe next step, just flesh this out, work on it, and then book another office hours, and we can do like a tear down kind of thing for what you're working on.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm going to leave you guys because I have so much to think about, and I'm going to just put some disco music and get into it.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Bye.
Good to see you. See ya. All right. So there's the session. I'll be excited to see how she does in the coming weeks and see what she reports back with. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, leave good reviews, all those things. And as a reminder, if you want to get coaching just like this, you can join the DYF Accelerator, and your membership includes one-on-one live video coaching calls with me every week, where we'll do basically what I just did with Maia here. These office hours blocks happen on Wednesdays. Typically, I've got 2 blocks a day, and you book a 20-minute one-on-one session within them, where we connect on your goals, challenges, and kind of map you into the next steps. We cap the accelerator at 200 members to ensure everyone can get some direct one-on-one support like this. You can learn more at dyf.link/community. If you want to follow Maia's business, you can learn more about her at her business website, which is Blank Page Labs. That is blankpagelab.io. So singular, blankpagelab.io. Or on Instagram at instagram.com/MaiaBen. So that's MaiaBen. That's her Instagram. Thanks, and see you in the next episode.